So, what's that?
I totally forgot to press record. We're now being recorded.
So yeah, that's all good news, and hopefully it can be pulled together here in the next couple of weeks. I guess we need to nudge Herb to get the map over. And then the other piece of that is that the Soil and Water Conservation District also has funding, although they're spent for this year and so can't contribute. They would be more focused on the area that's within 75 feet of the water of the river, which is the riparian area, and is subject to more regulation and you know, water quality violations type things. And so they would work in that area. For example, I am doing a private project with them, and they went ahead and pulled the permits for me for all the blackberry removal that I'm doing. So they got the permits from the county and they do all that paperwork for you. So you do an application with them, and they are like the project manager for it. And they will also help do some funding. In the meantime, they're available to provide guidance on, you know, best practices within those areas, but they don't have funding until next year. So I talked to Jessica, and I can start going ahead and looking at their paperwork. Their paperwork is a little bit more cumbersome, I'll say, than ODF, which is just do the work, we'll write you a check and get it paid for and done. But they'll also work with the other agencies just to make sure everything's copacetic, and then pay to get in there and do some blackberry removal and some restoration planting. Wow. PLA and then ING.
Wow.
And then,
good job.
And then the fire district, they don't really have any programs going right now. But Captain Curley did say that this projects like this that really are eye-opening for them, that they need to be involved in some way. And they're looking at picking up the piece of once these projects are gotten under control. I mean, we've got a really out of control situation here, but once they're under control, helping to maintain them either by doing things like getting goats in or other crews, you know, hiring the jail crew to come out and help keep things down over the years. Now they're not at that point, but that's something, it really seems like if we can have ODF come in and do the major hazardous fuels removal, have Soil and Water Conservation District work in the riparian area, and then have the fire district help with maintenance in the long term, that we'll be doing pretty well.
Jeez. Wow.
Well done.
Good job.
Really excited about it. So really hopeful. And I mean, that money's there, and they're 10 acres at 100%. So that's a lot of blackberries.
Wow. Is there anything we need to, I mean, you can keep after them, I'm hoping?
Well, so Jessica's going to be working with them, Jessica and Tony, and Soil and Water can come out and say, yes, you know, yes, this area, yes, not, or no, not that area, if we need them to be available in that capacity. Really, it's just a matter of getting the contract, getting the quote and getting the contract going. The contract is a basic business contract between the business and ODF.
Okay.
And they work with them all the time, that contractor does. And you know, they are going to get it down to a point where it's no longer a fire hazard. So they're either going to burn it back or haul it away. I do imagine it's not going to be the prettiest thing in the world for a while, especially if there's lots of canes behind. So it may be, since we're saving so much money by not having to pay for any of it, maybe there's some money that the city might have, or we can do a volunteer work day or something to come in and do maybe some cleanup afterward of all the canes, raking them up and putting them in piles and getting them out of here, so it's not horrendous looking. Because, you know, frankly, it's not going to be pretty for a while. Blackberries aren't terribly ugly. They're just a huge fire hazard and a major problem. You know, it's,
yeah. So
anyway, they'll get it down to where it's not a fire hazard, and we might want to come back and do some cleanup if it looks like it's an eyesore.
Okay.
Well, that's, yeah, anyway, that just, so Jessica, you're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Sure.
I mean, this is
good
amazing.
Answer.
I mean, wow.
That is.
And you know, that's just their money for this year. They'll be getting more money, probably, legislature allowing. They'll probably be getting more money for next year, that we can look at other opportunities to do work if needed. And they also, this is kind of outside of the auspices of the Parks Commission, although it is open space, I guess, in some areas. they have the Firewise program, which helps private property owners to get their properties ready for fire, and they help pay for that. Like they'll send crews in and haul the stuff away and pay for it. They just need like a critical mass. It's not that many number of property owners that's saying they're willing to do it, and they really want to work in the areas that are close to the wildland interface, or up on the hills, or down here on 234 where, you know, the hill comes right up out of the road. So they have money for that. It's just a matter of organizing.
Oh.
And who's the contact to ask about it?
Herb Johnson. He's the fellow who we met with. It sounded like maybe the mayor or Ron or somebody is already in contact with him about Firewise. I mean, it does take some organizing, but you know, it's just a matter, and then they'll pay for it. Money always tends to be the roadblock. So if we can get organized on our end, they'll.
I talked to Herb myself. Actually, he's involved with several of the properties that we've been working on up 234 from town. There's several property owners there that I've been helping do their fire abatement work, and have been receiving money through him. He wrote me a deal to do some acreage that's actually on the property line of where the old city dump is and my property, to kind of make, because that's a real fire trap there, and we were trying to get it thinned out, so we had some type of a break going up there under the one house that's on the ridge top. Real easy guy to do work with. He's really nice, and when they have money, they want to get it used right so that it's in the best interest of the community. That's for sure.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Richard and Paige, my hat's off to you guys. Wow. Leaps and bounds.
Yeah. Okay.
Exciting. Yeah. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah. We'll stay at it.
So my next mission after this hazardous fuels thing is I'm gonna get on graffiti, because that's my other pet peeve. So
okay. Well, Tony and Shannon painted over the water intake building, which I appreciate. That is, there was some, anyway, but yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's a.
He also did a big electrical box, which is great. I just feel like they're so spread thin. If we could get a couple of volunteers, you know, I can go out there sometime on a Saturday or something and spend a couple of hours doing it. There's one individual whose tag is Muse, and he had covered that green box, and he's covered an area down here right by the falls. Some old wall. I mean, they're big. They're probably 5 feet by 3 feet tags. And then he's tagged smaller areas, he or she. And then in addition, they've gone down here, down Gold Ray Road, where the dam was taken out, you know, way out of Gold Hill. And another one that's probably 10 foot tall by 5 feet wide, 10 wide, 5 feet tall. I'll probably go down there and paint over that too, just because I just am appalled, and just instead of complaining, I'll do it myself. But you know, in the long term, it'd be great if we could get together a graffiti brigade or regular graffiti abatement, something to help take the load off of Tony and Shannon and keep our park looking nice.
Yeah, amen to that. Okay.
I want to thank Steve too. You know, you're saying about volunteers. Every time I ask for volunteers, it seems like Steve shows up, and I want to thank him for that. He holds both ends of the rope sometimes, and that's important to have that.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on, the skate park update. I mean, there is there's a plan afoot to get, you know, build a gazebo, you know, on that area, and that's. I was looking at some prices of, you know, I think there's. Like a 12 by 16 foot gazebo shade structure, and there's some drawings online. And you know, one of the things is it's pretty easy to build if we have timbers, and so I'm wondering. I mean, I have some logs that could be the ponderosa pines.
If we can find some cedar or something that would have a longevity to it, something other than pine. The pine won't last very long, but if we could find a cedar log, I'd be more than happy to mill up the timbers to build something like that. I would donate my time for that.
Was somebody saying we needed more dirt there? We've already made 3 or 4 dumps. That each time we hustle different people to do that, and then all of a sudden we need more. So
I went and measured it, and there's plenty of room up there. There's plenty of space to build a gazebo.
I would think so. But
I mean, if somebody wants to add more dirt for something, I don't know, but we can.
Maybe they want a horse barn up there. I don't know. I mean, we've hustled three, maybe 4 different people to do it, and things run thin after a while. People giving and giving. So so you think there's plenty of room there?
Oh yeah, I went.
Yeah, I do too.
There's a lot of big space.
I think so. Yeah.
And it's just between Can-Do and I mean, just somehow we got to get this darn thing signed off on, because we never actually had a grand opening for the skate park.
No.
So it would be nice to build the gazebo and do that. And since Jan's not here, I mean, it really is in her honor.
That's right.
We
better do it soon. She's pretty sick at different times.
Exactly. So,
and the other part of that, I mentioned to a few kids, I said, someday this is going to need to be resurfaced with, we get mops and we can get all the material. If you get your buddies and people that use this, of course, the weather's got to be kind of like it is right now. But in another month, I'm sure we could put together the materials and whatever we need and get those kids out there. And that way they'd have buy-in on their own project. I mean, their own park. That'd be important to keeping from graffiti and everything else too.
And the other thing is that we could, and like if Can-Do has some money in the bank for this, not enough to pay for the gazebo, but I mean, I think the material costs, if we bought like pressure treated timbers, it would be $2,400 or something like that. And then if we could think we could find people to just to build the thing if we can
ask around. I could ask volunteers. There's a lot of contractors here in town that, like I said, partly as we get some of these other things going, and it wouldn't hurt for someone to approach the Rogue River paper about how much progress we're actually making in the park, and that we're looking for some volunteers to help on some of these particular items. And we might be able to pick up someone who would help with the roofing, say that we're looking for a roofing contractor to help with the one roof, and then that we're looking for some construction people to possibly help with a pergola or a gazebo type package. Like I said, if we could find the right logs where it's something that's going to last, either, like a red fir or a cedar, we obviously don't have any redwood here. It'll last a lot longer, and it takes me the same amount of time to make the beams with the saw that I have. I'd rather make it out of the right materials, have the project last further down the road.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I put in a plug while we're talking about the funding for that? I think it's a great idea. It's also in the area of the park that attracts the most vandalism.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering, and wood is not so easy to paint. I mean, you can paint over it, but obviously it loses its beauty pretty quickly. So I'm just wondering if when this is happening, if we could also kind of time it in with the signage for, under video surveillance, and actually putting it under video surveillance so that we can curb some of that.
That's a
good idea.
So yeah, let's keep that on the
mount the cameras on it.
Yeah.
Dang, I'm gonna have to find something else to do at night for my art.
It would be so sad. I mean, it's bad enough when it gets out on there on the concrete and other things, but when they start painting on wood and rock where you can't ever really get it back, it's just so disheartening. I'd hate to see that happen, but it probably will.
Yeah. That's...
Anyway.
Oh, it will. You can guarantee it will happen. But like you said, we'll just have to paint back over it. It's not as prolific as it used to be, but it used to be anything you had was going to get painted. And now it's one or two idiots. It seems one follows another one.
There's some new stuff that showed up in the last week. I mean, the other end of the park is getting pretty bad, starting from the ball fields on. And the baseball buildings got tagged really badly again this week over stuff that was already there. I mean, it even says the word BITCH, which I won't say on camera. But, you know, I mean, we've got kids walking around in the park and there's profanity on the ball fields right now. So that's what I mean about having a graffiti brigade, is taking care of it right away. So it's not 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months, 4 months,
right.
we handle it.
Okay. Well, that's, yeah. So
okay.
We'll definitely, that's something we got to move on. I just moving ahead, because Larry's not going to be with us for all that much longer. And one thing that's come up that's a real, it could be a really exciting possibility that I think, so let's talk about it now, which is, this came up in a grant meeting where we were talking about possibly getting a grant to build mountain bike trails on Nugget Butte. And Rob Lowe was there, who, you know, he was the guy who really started the bike path. And he brought up paving the trail there's a trail that goes from the water intake all the way to the end of the property, end of the Gold Hill property, up the river. And anyway, there's 1,650 feet of trail that could become part of our bike path. And in fact, that was kind of planned out 10 years ago by a group from the Rogue River Greenway that I was part of, trying to figure out how to eventually connect onto Upper River Road and all that. Whether or not that happens, if we actually extended the bike path the length of the property, it would be an incredible extension to the existing bike path, which I think would get a lot of use.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out, anyway, so that came up, and so Tony asked asked Knife River to walk the trail and give us a cost estimate of what it cost to pave it like the existing greenway. And so the Knife River guy had some of the plans from they did some of the previous greenway, I think. Anyway, they had some of those plans, and they came back today with a bid, sort of an estimate of $80,000, which was less than I thought. And there are two possible, and I also today got a thing from Travel Oregon where there's a grant due. The grant opens up March 15th and is due March 30th for up to $100,000 for each grant for things for trails and water access. I mean, it's like it's a COVID grant, but anyway, our trail is kind of, paving it is right exactly in line with the project. And RVCOG is interested in writing the grant, and sort of, because they did all the grants for the water intake building and all that riparian restoration and stuff. Anyway, there's a chance that we could actually get that done this summer, because the money has to be spent this summer. So,
can I put in a plug for that? When Tony mentioned that when we were doing the walkthrough last week, and that's an area where there are some additional blackberry issues. Do you think that when they came in and did the a path through there, that we could tie in some blackberry removal and vegetation replacement?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and part of I mean, the idea with the trail is to do as, I mean, follow the trail that's already there, so there's as little disturbance of existing, you know, not, we don't want to take down any trees or anything, but I'm sure there will be stuff that will have to come out and then have to be replaced. And so it'd be, I mean, it's a great time to get rid of blackberries and do more planting and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
does it require special permitting since it's so close to the water?
That's the
Fish and Game, I bet.
Probably DEQ.
Yeah, well, and that's the question. I sent a note to Eugene Weir about it, and he, you know, he said there, you know, there's the riparian stuff with Jackson County, and there's also a floodplain thing where we can't change the floodplain, which means, and I think we can. I think the floodplain issue would be insignificant because it's just not that, you know, we're not, it's a couple inches of asphalt and a couple inches of gravel. So but there are some stuff like that. And so that is the question. Can we get the permits fast enough?
Yeah, I think the Department of State Lands, I'm not sure who it is. I think it might be the Department of State Lands. If you're doing fill, like if you're laying fill or any fill and removal type stuff, I think they require a permit. So I say this just so that as you're looking at how much it costs and the partners, that's worked in there and known going into it. So it's not like, oh God, now we've got this money and we can't spend it this year because we don't have the permits or whatever.
Yeah, that is the issue. Is if you know, if we do, you know, if it requires a whole, you know, level of DSL stuff, then probably can't happen fast enough. But there's also, even if we didn't go for this, or we didn't get the Travel Oregon grant, it fits in with the Oregon Trails grants that happen every year. And it's right in their sweet spot for water trails and river. I mean, it's the kind of.
And is that the one that the RBCOG will help with? Sorry, I thought you had stopped. I'm sorry. I think we're getting some delay here. So I'm sorry if I interrupted you. Is that the one that is the RBCOG helping with that second one you were talking about, or the Travel Oregon one, or both? Well,
the Travel Oregon one just got announced today. So, and the advantage of the Travel Oregon one is that it has to be done by April 1st, but no, or it'll be decided by April 30th. And that's before the state parks grant is due. So we could apply for the Travel Oregon grant, and that would just essentially define the project. And if we get it, we're good. And if we don't, we just carry on with the state parks, and that wouldn't be funded for a year anyway. So
maybe that money could get put over there at Lampman for a trail later if we get the first one for this trail.
Yeah, it wouldn't be terrible if we had a nicer trail at Beach Park too.
Yeah, that's
point.
I think there's areas where we're not supposed to be in there, but I think there's also areas where there are. A fellow sent a map, and it has like designated areas, and some areas I think are perfectly good for trails, and it seems like it'd be nice to have it in there as long as it's doesn't cause a problem, I guess, with the homeless population that might have better access. But
I think they'll protest it.
I think yeah, well, the thing about the beach park is that we wouldn't be, we couldn't pave a trail in a lot of it because
it floods.
It's in the floodway. That said, we can certainly improve our trail system there, and we should.
Yeah, the dirt trails. I mean, I don't mean the paved trail. I just mean the dirt trails. You know, little bridges or whatever, you know, like little features, or even just getting in there and having some work to cut the whatever vegetation back, or, you know, if it does require permitting, that it pays for the permit or whatever, pays for the staff time to do the permit, you know, whatever is needed.
I guess, yeah, I think.
I don't even know if you need a permit on that. They're all kind of stomped out and there. People walk on them all the time, and they got the Kiesling Park back there.
So
I think if we're applying for grants, they're probably going to want to just make sure that they're going to want to make sure we crossed the T's and dotted our I's.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess what I would like is, I mean, I think I've never thought about extending the bike path, you know, paving that, or, I mean, we talked about it for the, I mean, I guess I talked about it with the Greenway people, but I'd forgotten all about it. Anyway, Rob Lowe brought it up, and it struck me as, wow, this is actually, that would be a really good addition to our parks, to have that, the bike path go all the way. Because it opens up, you know, that much more of the river to, which right now is just, if people
access,
people think it's private property, it's not, and it's just beautiful. So Mike, so what I'm hoping is that the Parks Commission that will vote to just say, hey, we want to do this, and, you know, it's got to go to the city council, but, you know, but then
are there enough of us to vote right now?
Yeah, we have a quorum, and
okay.
So we're voting.
A motion.
We're voting to explore, to like explore the possibility. Is that what we're voting on?
Yeah, and we basically say we think that this extending the bike path is a good idea, and we think we should, you know, I think the grant would actually be written by RVCOG, and the project would be handled by them. That's kind of the thought, because it would be a good project for them. I mean, they can write their own fees into the grant and that kind of stuff. So it's, what's that?
Motion that we move that forward to city council so that they can move forward on that project.
I second it.
All right, any more?
Is that written up right? Well, yes. Let's make it roll and let's get stuff going. Pretty exciting stuff for me today, hearing from Richard. I've seen his work down there, and Paige has certainly brought a whole new element to this crew, and all positive stuff, and things. If we don't jump on stuff and keep it rolling, we're pretty famous. I don't mean this group here, but as a city, we're pretty famous for talking a lot and not getting anything done. No knocking on anyone, because it takes effort and everything. And seems like we got people putting out effort, and we can get some of those grants going and things like that. I'm excited now. That's all good news today.
Yeah.
So let's get it rolling. Boss.
Okay, so yeah,
I second it, or I say aye.
Okay, so all in favor of moving ahead on this thing, or sending it to city council, I guess?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Cool.
Good.
Cool. I'm gonna have to roll. My wife needs this machine for another, what is it called, Zoom meeting. So good seeing you folks, and we'll be in touch again.
Okay.
I got my son home, and he'll be flying out real quick, so I want to spend time with him. And
okay, thanks.
Plus,
thanks.
my wife commandeers the machine. Thanks, guys.
We're going to volunteer you for a couple of things while you're in a few minutes. So we'll let you know what you're.
I always get volunteered, but I've got to use my left shoulder. Forget it. I got a good right though. Bye.
One thing that we talked about, so when if for some reason whatever, if there's any roadblocks for getting that extension done, and there's still, or for other grants that may come up, where they're taking out all these blackberries, all that area in that swale where the old channel was, you know, where the water used to come down from the dam and it went through that swale, and it's now that
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It used to be the old channel to take the water from the river down to the powerhouse, and now it's just getting grown over by blackberries.
Yeah.
So the Soil and Water Conservation District, they're not going to pay for everything 100% like ODFW or ODF is, but they'll pay for a lot of it, and we'll need to come up with a match. That match doesn't have to be city money. It could be city time. It could be other grant funds. And so if we have that, they will help come up with a plan for additional trails or additional plantings or features. You know, what if we did a cool kind of bridge over that swale area to connect the one path to the other? Some, you know, things like that are available to us, and we should be thinking about them and coordinating, because that money is going to come available after July.
Okay.
Yeah, I think note page. One of the things I've been doing is in my portfolio that I'm building of the volunteers through having their registration and waiver forms, is I'm keeping track of their hours on each one of these. Tony told me that on a lot of these, the amount of hours that we have can be used against that money. So I'm trying to categorize that and keep track of that also as I go, so that we can, in an equipment equals, and have that towards our grants. So I am working on that a little.
That's great. That'll be really helpful. That'll be really helpful.
Thank you.
You know, and the other thing we've talked about that's just probably getting off our agenda, so we can't talk about it too much, but maybe we can put it on our next agenda, is getting that camp host in there and the gates up so we can have better surveillance and, you know.
Yeah, that's the budget committee. Okay, Jessica, so that is coming up in the budget committee, you said?
That will be on, when I prepare the budget, I'm going to allocate money to that. I mean, they probably won't shoot me down, but we've been gathering all the amounts of money so that we can budget for that, because yeah, we definitely want to proceed with that.
Okay.
Library park fence removal. I discussed that with Tony, and we came up with a reasonable. He laughed. He said, as soon as we take it down in a year, they'll want to put it up. So we decided what we're going to do is we're going to take off the top bar, roll up the cyclone fencing, and then where the posts are, we're actually going to take like 6-inch PVC, slide it over top of those, and then fill them. So in the event we want to put the fence back up, all we got to do is take those off, put the top rail back on, and put new fencing up. We decide that we need a new. Is
this the library fence? You broke up a little bit. Are you talking about the library?
Library fencing. So we're kind of making a little bit of headway. He's aware that the project has been being talked about, that wanted to be removed. And me and him are trying to come up with a happy medium so that it doesn't involve them digging up a bunch of cement, which would really be a pain to do, even with the equipment to pull it out. You never know what it might be hooked to. I had that problem before, and it's not nice when you disconnect something that's not supposed to be buried where they said it wasn't, but it happens. So anyway, I have talked to Tony about that particular issue. So that's kind of where we're at right now with it.
Yeah, it seems that the library park should, I mean, taking that thing should be a couple hours work.
Yeah, it's not hard.
We do, the play structure, that fire truck is really cool. It just needs to be repainted or, you know, but I guess that could be done just with spray paint. I wish we could train our graffiti artists to do it, but.
Oh, we need to catch them and get them to do community service. You know, we've got a judge now. We find them do a couple 100 hours. Paige, take them out there and teach them to be an artist instead of a freaking hack, excuse my language. You know,
it's so bad. It's so bad. There's Muse, and then there's others that are just, I mean,
it's all formality though.
Really no. You know, I think about it like the last time my parents were here, which was several years ago now. I took them to the park and we walked through, and I was so excited. And I've had groups of girlfriends that I've taken over there, and we've had little, you know, outings and taken pictures on the river. And I wouldn't take anybody over there right now. It's embarrassing. I mean, it's an eyesore. It's really bad, the graffiti.
I had talked to Jim Farney also, and he does metal art, but he had talked about possibly doing a few signs for us and volunteer for the Parks Department that basically the way his signs are made, that you're cutting things out of the interior of the metal and a lot like the plastic work you see, but it would be really easy to just take a spray can and it's black again, you know? So it's not stuff that's printed that once it's painted on, it affects, it'll never be the same. It's something that if it gets painted, you can paint over it and it's another day. So we are kind of looking at some options for, in certain places, a couple of the signs to be, to experiment with that. And like I said, Jim was willing to possibly give me a little bit of his time and effort on that. So said it's kind of in the works, you know.
Awesome.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be really neat.
Oh,
well, we've got a lot to do.
Hey, Richard, one thing, could you, you know, there, just because we're thinking about the area where the tennis courts are, there's those old outhouses that maybe they're used for storage now, I'm not sure, but it seems like that would be a nice, speaking of eyesores, I think it would be nice for them to go away since they're not.
I don't know, Tony did say something about that, yeah, I don't know if he was using them or what. That's hasn't been in my focus at all.
I've never asked about it either. I'm not sure.
I've been trying to keep my focus on the trees along the bike path, and it just keeps getting broader and broader. And that's why it's so much a blessing for Paige to be taking over where she's taking, because she's really on that trail crew mentality and knows the workings of the government so well. I really appreciate you, Paige. You're doing so much for us.
Great.
Okay. Anyway, just or if those outhouses are not serving a purpose, they could. I think it would be nice to have them go away. Just
yeah. Well, have to say. I'll ask. I'll inquire what's going on with that in our next meeting. We can put that on the agenda.
Okay. Cool. And then last thing, Lampman Park update. That gate went in. I went and looked at it, and it's a nice looking gate, and it needs some other barricades. I mean, like
some boulders or something.
Boulders and stuff.
Yeah, I saw it from the freeway. I was excited.
Yeah.
It just looked like there needed to be some boulders on either side so you couldn't go around it.
And Tony's talking about one of his friends has an excavator and digging out the ditch along the road so that it makes it harder. So somebody just pull across, you know, you can't just drive off the road into that area.
That's great.
Anyway, I think this is this is something that we talked about just a few weeks, whatever it was. And, and now there's a gate there. So
exciting. That's going to make a huge difference. I picked up an awful lot of garbage down there on our annual cleanups before. So hopefully
yeah, I mean,
you won't have dumping down there anymore.
Yeah, so that's progress. And I think, and that trail's going to happen, well, they're building that trail, and Eugene is excited about it. So we'll, anyway, that's moving forward.
Do we have a connection at all with the paper out of Rogue River?
Yeah.
Who can we talk to there that would maybe spend a few minutes writing up something about what we're doing so we could try and get volunteers
all the time. You want to talk to the reporter?
I would love to talk to him. I've talked to him before on. I talked to a gentleman that called me about.
He doesn't do the Rogue River Press. Okay. That's a different guy. He's a freelancer. But I can put you in touch with.
Yeah, I think that if we're going to get more public involvement, and like I said, as part of building the park, I want to build community. And the more volunteers I can get involved, and I'm getting people excited, but really getting them to actually engage is the next level. The weather's getting better. It's getting nice. People want to be outside. And if we can get a boost by getting some good publicity in there of the good things that we're doing and the things that we want to have come up, I think that would be advantageous. Like I said, once you get the ball rolling, it's easier to keep it rolling than get it rolling again. Creating excitement. I think we're all getting excited, and I think that we can draw in some of that from the outside and move this to the next level.
Yeah. So that yeah, if you would contact.
I'm sending her an email right now.
Okay. And so we're, you know, for the next meeting, I think we want to keep the graffiti, your graffiti brigade on the thing, and we'll have more on the, obviously on this, on the Blackberry removal, because, well, hopefully that we'll be moving on that. And also the bike path extension. Anything else that had for the next meeting, agenda items?
I had been going to ask about potentially doing a project there around the swing area, but now that you guys have brought up this pergola idea, I think it would be better to wait a year. I really want to encourage my sons to each year do a project in the park in memory of their mother. But I think it'd be better to put that off till next year. We should really be, we said, spend some time thanking the people who have dedicated their time into getting that skate park going. The kids, you know, if we can get something going down there, I think it'd be better timing for that. Allow me to get the projects I'm already doing for the parks done. But down the road, I would like to discuss the potential of me talking to Mike Garnier over at the Treehouse Resort at Grants Pass and looking at the potential of putting some small type of a tree fort play structure in the oak that's right next to the swing set. I think it would really add to that play area to do something like
that. A treehouse?
Yeah, a little one.
I'm gonna have to clear that with the insurance company.
Well, they've done it in a lot of parks.
I'm sure it'll be fine, but I'm gonna have to clear that.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up now. Your head.
That area, you know, I know you brought up the roofs. I wonder if with these funding possibilities, if we can't just find somebody to donate funding, if we could get some grant funding to replace the roofs on the picnic area.
Yeah, that's the what I'm already trying on that. They had some leads going on. I know that. It definitely.
Is there? I mean, Jessica, could we just get that put in the city budget if we can knock it down and, you know, basically say, hey, we'll peel the stuff off and just, you know, get the money to buy the steel and put it up there? Because I bet we could find people to do it if.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to bring anything you want before the budget committee. By the way, the budget committee has vacancies if any of you are interested in being on the budget committee.
Does it have to be a city resident?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
So many people want just outside. Yeah,
you know, in addition to the roofing there, it really could be all the tables could use a sanding and a repainting too to really.
Yeah, that's true.
Bring that place up to being awesome. I mean, it's got the structure there. It just needs some TLC.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because the point is, I think we're at the thing where if we don't do the roof, you know, pretty quick, then it gets really expensive because then the plywood is rotted through and just. But I think right now it's not that bad, and you're right. Those tables need to be repainted.
Well, just as some of these grants are coming along, you know, if someone's like, "Yeah, we've got some money for a project," be like, "Great, we have a re-roofing, refurbishing project that needs to happen there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the girls could probably use a little bit of love. We could get some better trash cans there. Well, really make it a nice spot.
On anything this metal fabrication, Jim will work with me. He wants to spend time. Like I said, they're just out of the city limits. They wish that they could be involved more. They've been showing up in volunteering time anyway. And like I said, he will help me with some metal fabrication. So if there's any welding, I know Tony and those guys do a lot of that stuff, but there's, like you said, spread so thin. I want to make sure that they get to the stuff that they need to get to, and the other easier stuff we can kind of get farmed out to volunteers.
Yeah, well, like for getting a quote for that project or whatever, we could, I mean, one of us could go out there. It seems like something, I mean, speaking of volunteering Larry for something, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true. You know,
he could go, he could take that on.
The other thing, if for some reason we can't apply for this Travel Oregon grant for the trail, it might be that we could apply for the picnic area, because it's a COVID related. I mean, it's outdoor dining. It's also a lot less expensive. I mean, if we put in like if we paid $8,000 to re-roof it, and then maybe another $8,000 to put in something. I mean, write a $15,000 or $20,000 grant to make that area look nice, we might get it. I'd rather go for that trail, and because we might actually get that if the permits can line up. But if we decide not to, I think we should. We got to apply for a grant. We got to apply for.
Apply for every grant. No grant left untouched.
Yeah. So anyway, but we'll know that at the next meeting, I guess, is what.
I predict money is going to come in, and we're going to be able to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
The timing is right. The right team.
I mean, given what you've done with that BlackBerry stuff, yeah, I mean, we're on a roll.
We're on a roll. Gotta ask.
So cool. Okay. Well, anything else? This is really exciting.
Well, I just want to thank.
We might know next time what we'll need for the aftermath of the BlackBerry removal project. You know, so it's $500 a day to get the jail crew in, which is cheap considering you get like 10 people working 8 hours a day. And it might be something that if it's a real mess, we could get the jail crew out there for 2 or 3 days and just have them rake up all the canes and get it out of there.
Yeah,
that's really cheap.
Real
nice. It is really cheap.
If you burn first, I don't know if you looked at where me and Steve were working there, where we did the first wave where we cut all the stuff down. I let it dry for about a week, and then I burned it. And then you rake it, and the ground doesn't even look black. Now you will see where the new blackberries try and come up, and it'll only take Tony and them a very small amount of herbicide in comparison as those come up to spot spray them. I'm going to have to burn down the coming week, but it's, you know, and for small areas, you can get away with it. Big areas, you can get it out of hand. But I do have my fire truck when we're doing that kind of stuff.
For the fire burning of the blackberries, it depends on how soon they get in there and how close we are to fire season. And it also depends on the contractor. Some of them haul it away and dispose of it, and others of them burn it. So it depends on, we don't know that yet. He couldn't, for the Department of Forestry couldn't answer because it depends on the contractor and what the agreement is.
Drip torching is not for the fuel.
So anyway, we'll keep that on the agenda, just to keep going on it. And the other thing I'm going to add to that is, talking about that the canal that goes to the powerhouse. There were some options for that for the canal that were in the. This is the Gold Hill Fish Passage Improvements and Municipal Water Supply Report, when they took out the dam and all that. Anyway, I hadn't looked at this in a long time, but they did a bunch of sort of options for that powerhouse canal and the powerhouse and what to do. And so that's something we should be talking about. One of it is cut down the problems we have, and then also thinking about the future. So But we have a lot of things going on, so I don't want to.
I mean, Soil and Water was even talking about getting in there and just putting in a bunch of native plants and maybe planning if there would need to be a trail or something through there. They said they can also fund like signage for natural areas, or like if you want to be like, here's a Floodity, or this used to be a something, they can do some of that. But it kind of depends on what the plan is for it. But the sooner we get on it, and the more like vegetation or whatever we get down, the better chance we're going to have of keeping the blackberries out of there long term.
Okay, so we'll keep that on the agenda, and just because it's an ongoing thing, you know. So.
It is.
All right.
All right.
So ready to adjourn? Cool. Well, thanks, guys.
Hey.
Everybody, thank you.
All right.
See you next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.